Welcome to Medical Matters Weekly with Dr. Trey Dobson, presented by Southwestern Vermont Health Care and Catamount Access Television.
Welcome, everybody. Today is February 23rd, 2022. It's a very rainy day the past 24 hours, but we have some snow coming, which I'm hopefully will stick for this weekend so we can get out again before the spring rolls in. I'm Trey Dobson, Chief Medical Officer at Southwestern Vermont Medical Center and an emergency medicine physician with Dartmouth-Hitchcock Health. And this is Medical Matters Weekly, a show about the aspects of healthcare that matter to you most. My guest today is Lea Davison, a professional mountain biker, an Olympian, and a Vermonter. So Leah is from Jericho, is that right? Is that where you were born?
Yeah, Jericho, Vermont, northern Vermont.
And another elite athlete graduate of Middlebury College. We've had Tim Van Orden on the show, another elite athlete from Middlebury College. Leah graduated with a degree in environmental studies and began mountain bike racing in 2001, which we're going to learn all about. Won the bronze at the 2014 World Championships, third overall at the 2015 World Cup Series. It goes on and on. She competed in the Olympics twice, London in 2012 and Rio in 2016. Lots of great information out there on the web, which you can review. And she co-founded Little Bellas, which is a mentoring on mountain bikes program for girls. And I know nothing about it intentionally. I did not look it up because I'm excited to learn it from you, Leah. So tell us a little bit about growing up in Jericho.
Yeah, my family moved there. I was born in New York. So I'm not a true Vermonter for those diehards. Yeah, I just have to get it out there. I'm not a seventh generation Vermonter, but I still proudly call myself a Vermonter. My family moved from Pennsylvania actually to Vermont, to Jericho when I was 5 years old. And I really just think it was the best place to grow up in. I'm sure, as you can relate to and know, Vermont is a great community. And I really feel like it's one of the places where the small town energy and community exists, like one of the last places where it exists in the world. So it was an incredible community to grow up in. It was just an outdoor playground. I grew up, downhill ski racing. That was really the main sport, as well as a bunch of other sports, because my mom grew up pre-Title IX and she's a very competitive woman. So she wasn't afforded the same opportunities in sport that we were. So because of that, her and my dad just threw us into every sport possible, from sailing, swim team, cross-country running, really everything. So the things that we kind of focused on, my sister and I, growing up, was downhill ski racing. We really were into it.
And then did you get into Nordic racing as well?
Well, that came later. So I was running cross country in the fall, and then I was downhill ski racing in the winter. And later on, got into mountain biking like at the end of high school. And so not until actually my sophomore year at Middlebury, I tore my ACL like at the end of freshman year. And I had surgery the fall of my sophomore year. So I wasn't ski racing downhill. I was really just rehabbing. And that's the winter that I took up Nordic skiing, and I learned how to Nordic ski. And it turns out it's way better training for mountain bike racing. So that was kind of my entry into Nordic skiing. And now I love it. That's the main, I love any kind of skis on snow, but really that's the main way I train in Vermont in the winter for professional mountain bike racing.
Jumping ahead real quick, just talk a little bit about your ACL tear. I think that would be really great for the audience to hear about.
Oh yeah, we can. I mean, how long do you have, Trey? We can go through all my injuries. I tore it at a ski race in Sugar Bush, and luckily it was only the ACL. It wasn't the MCL, any of the other ligaments in the knee. And interestingly enough, I saw my strength coach, my physical therapist, Bill Knowles, and he said, I had this whole bike season, my first season pro, lined up. So I was devastated. I'm like, I can't race my bike. I I have this knee injury. And he goes, you can still race a bike without an ACL. And I'm like, what? So we really focused on strength and conditioning. If your quad muscle is strong, if all the muscles surrounding the joint are turned on and strong, they will actually stabilize the knee, and not as well as if you had an ACL. So I was,
right.
The joint was stabilized enough so I could race that full season. And then I went into surgery in the fall really strong, actually, because I had really focused on it. So that makes the rehab process a lot easier. And I use my hamstring instead of my, what's the ligament in the front of the knee?
Oh, like your patellar tendon?
Yeah, patella, sorry. I just forgot. So, because, cycling is such like a repetitive motion that we were afraid that if I used patella, like I would have surrounding consequences. So yeah, and I had it done right here in Vermont.
Oh, that's great. So I this is my fault. I've jumped all over the place because I'm so excited in this discussion. Let me go back, and I just want to ask, you talked about your mom. Sounds like she was quite an inspiration. And you mentioned Title IX. And I have to say, even though it wasn't that long ago, still, I don't think it was that common that high school girls got into mountain biking. How did you get into mountain biking?
Yeah, mountain biking has been a very much so, still is, but it's getting better, a male-dominated sport. And I had a friend at the time that I was, running cross country with, and he was into mountain biking. And we were running track in the spring, and he said, why don't you stop running around in circles and what do you come try this? You can ride my bike. His name is Dan Dombrowski. And it was like love at first sight. I mean, it really combined like the endurance that I had learned from, and pushing my limits from cross-country running, and then kind of like the technical skills and looking ahead. It felt very similar to downhill ski racing. So it was kind of the marriage of both of these sports that I had put a lot of effort and energy into, and it just kind of took off for me.
Did your parents, did that cause them any concern, or are they pretty used to sports like that?
It's so funny because yesterday, you're catching me at a very unique time. Yesterday I announced my retirement from World Cup racing after 20 years of racing on the international level. And
wow, I'm so honored to be the first interview you have, maybe, or I don't even know if I am, but that's pretty cool.
You're one of the first, definitely. So this is a very big moment for me. I've been doing it my entire life and pursuing kind of that top level of the sport. So I was on the phone with my parents and kind of reflecting back. And I said, how did you guys do it? Like, how were you not so stressed and worried? Like, I never got that energy from them. And they never gave me that energy because they didn't want to impact me at all. Like, I have enough stress to take on with like going off these really big drops. I mean, they can be 14 feet high, and then these huge jumps and these like, it's risky. And it got more and more risky and challenging kind of in the latter half of my career. So I was like, how did you do it? And my dad said, well, I just trusted in your skills. Like, I knew that you had developed the skills to do all of these things. And my mom said, and ski racing kind of trained us, like you were downhill ski racing, which is also a risky thing. So we had gone into mountain bike racing with some training with that, taking on that kind of worry. And my mom goes, now I'm going to sleep a lot better now that you're retired. So I caused my mom, I guess, more than 20 years of not great sleep.
I know you get this question all the time, but just help our audience understand like what it was like when you realized, and it probably wasn't a point in time, but I know it was a narrow window when you realized, oh, wait a minute, I'm going to go on the national scene and I may even make the Olympic team.
Yeah. Oh, that was, all those steps are very exciting, and it's like you said, it's a gradual progression. And there was one moment in time when I started getting into mountain bike racing. I was 17 years old, racing these local races in Vermont. And then at 18 years old, the next summer, I did 2 national races as a junior. So that means you're 18 years old and younger. And I won one of these junior races, and USA Cycling came up to me and they said, "Hey, you've won this race. You've qualified for the World Championships." And I was like, "There's a World Championships for this?" I mean, I had no idea. And in that point in time, I was like, "Oh, there's a World Championships. There's an Olympic mountain bike race. You can do this professionally, like as a job." And once I realized that, I was all in. You know, I had that Olympic dream from a very young age, and I felt like I had finally found a path to it. You know, it was kind of like I naturally took to the sport. And then between that point, you know, turning pro, getting on pro teams, making my first world championship team, you know, and then to the point of getting to the Olympics, there's a lot of years. I mean, there was, let's see, 2001 was my first world championships, and I made the 2012 Olympic team. So, you know, it's that many years in between realizing the ultimate dream. And it's just, it's a lot of hard work. I mean, it's going for bike rides in 30 degrees and raining, you know, in Vermont, all the weather. So, yeah.
So I'm sure during that huge time, there's all kinds of, as we were talking about right before we went live here, there's all kind of health concerns there. There's the wellness aspect, physical wellness. I would imagine there's a mental wellness.
Yeah.
And then there is, you know, what happens when you do have injuries like the ACL tear or big ones. Can you just, I mean, this is a health show. So let's just talk a little bit about that. Talk to us a little bit about your experiences.
Yeah, I love that question because wellness in general, all the aspects of wellness and mental wellness too, and mental health are very crucial to success at an elite level of athletics. So sleep is important, nutrition is important, obviously physical well-being, recovery, strength and conditioning, so you can prevent injuries and really reach that peak form of fitness. So, you know, I focused on all of those aspects over my career, and you know, a sports psychologist, a sports physiologist, a sleep specialist with the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee. You know, once you reach those upper echelons of the sport and performance, and you're in that, you're on the Olympic team or on that path, then the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee have a lot of great resources. So and also body work is really crucial. And that's something that I pay a lot of attention to. I mean, recovery, sleep, and body work are, and hard work on the bike, obviously, that's a given, and training. But all those other things outside of that they're really crucial. And so I will get cranial sacral work, which is energy work. I've gotten acupuncture over my career. I see a chiropractor who does kinesiology chiropractic, massage therapist at least weekly, mostly weekly. Yeah, it's like there's a village of support that's behind every Olympian, and definitely the body workers are a central part of my village. Like they're on the governing council, you know, to keep me going.
So I think what you bring up is incredible, because I think it actually could translate to the non-Olympian population, which is the other 99.9% of the population who hear things about, you know, elite athletes and think they don't pertain to them. But actually, the same wellness and the same programs can be beneficial to anyone, really.
Yeah.
And I hope that as you know, exercise science and exercise physiology has progressed, that we can start translating that some into our preventative and healthcare maintenance. I mean, as a doctor, that's what I would hope is that I see someone for their illness, but also see them and be able to provide them resources that they can afford, that will help them with their mental and physical well-being. Very similar, not the same, but similar to what an elite athlete, the tools an elite athlete may have in front of them.
Absolutely. And there's so much information out there right now there's just been a boom over my, 20-year career of sleep trackers and nutrition apps and everything. So there's actually a lot of resources at your fingertips, and you have to make sure that they're reputable, right? Like you're listening to good sources of information and doctors like yourself. And it's key. I mean, you're absolutely right. Everything, the same concepts apply for general well-being. I mean, for example, my wife, Fraser Blair, she has a very demanding job at the Orvis Company, and she takes care of herself like me, like an elite athlete, because it puts the same demands, like that amount of stress, it puts the same demands on the body. So she gets massage often, she gets body work. We make sure to get enough sleep. I mean, it's really the same approach to well-being.
Right. Well, maybe Leah, at some point, we can go in on a business together and see how can we make this. I mean, there are health coaches out there, and there's certainly a lot of information out there, and you have to be motivated a bit. And I think it can scare off some of the population who think, well, I'm not an elite athlete at all. Mm-hmm. I'm middle of life, and I think that it is time that we can start making some of these resources, at least at some level, available to the population as a part, again, of the health system, of healthcare. And maybe we'll have you back on the show in a couple of years once you've established that.
That would be fun.
Tell us a little bit about your organization, Little Bellas.
Yeah, Little Bellas was founded in 2007 by my sister, Sabre Davison, and myself and another woman and our friend, Angela Irvine. So, when my sister and I were growing up racing mountain bikes in the junior ranks, we looked around on our start line and saw there's only 10 other women here on the start line with us. And then we would watch the junior men start, and there would be 100 junior men, 200. And we just thought, this is not right. We need to change this. We wanted to give more girls the opportunity and kind of the doors that had opened for us when we started racing bikes and riding bikes. So that's why we founded Little Bellas. And we also wanted to give girls really good role models, pretty much. So it is a group mentoring program. It's headquartered here in Vermont, and it's started here in Vermont, and now we're a national program. So we have chapters all around the U.S. This year we will get probably around 1,500 girls on bikes. So that's very exciting. And it's programs we're really powered by our volunteer mentors. These are incredible women that volunteer their time and effort to help mentor and ride with these Little Bellas. And we have program leads around the country so that start their own chapters and their own programs. And we have some week-long camps, but mostly our programming is weekly sessions for a set amount of time. Mm-hmm. It could be over a month, 6 weeks. And it's really fun. These program leads, these mentors, they're really the lifeblood of Little Bellas and the spirit and soul of Little Bellas. And it's just so much fun.
For those in the audience that are interested in learning more, I assume, is there a website resource?
Yes, please go check us out. It's littlebellas.com. And if you want to follow us on Instagram, it's Little Bellas NTB. And if you want to follow me on Instagram, it's Leah Eats a Lot. This is what my handle is.
That is great. Tell me, I have this little note here. It says, happiness is fast. What does that mean?
Yeah, I mean, we talk about mental health, right? So my approach is that if someone is happy and finding joy in life, then you're racing fast, and this has proved true for me over my entire career. So I, developed that saying and that hashtag to kind of spread that concept, because a lot of times from the outside, professional sports, it's intense. Mountain bike racing is intense and it's stressful. There's a lot of pressure. And if we can find those moments of joy within, just the pure joy of riding a bike, racing a bike, traveling around the world, because a lot of it is hard work and drudgery. And then if you can find some moments of joy in that, then, you are going to have a better life and also go faster. And I think that's part of the reason why I've been able to have such a long career that's lasted 20 years.
I love it. I'm going to start using that hashtag myself.
Yes, please do.
You also use your platform to advocate for the LGBTQ rights, and tell us a little bit about that and what it's meant for you.
Yeah, this is something that only recently I've kind of leaned into this advocacy, because when my wife Fraser and I were getting ready to get married in 2018, before that I was out, obviously, but I wasn't really loud about it, especially on my social media platforms. My friends, my family, some sponsors knew, and there was still kind of that underlying fear of like, well, am I fully accepted in this space and industry? And
in your travels, I imagine too,
yeah,
because you're internationally traveling, which is quite different than hanging out in Vermont.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, as you know, even different parts of the US are different, than Vermont. So sometimes it can be a little bit scary. And so that's why, okay, just keep it on the down low. And then in the lead up to my marriage, my wedding, a sponsor at the time during Pride Month in June said, "Hey, Leah, we'd like to celebrate you getting married. So send us like some photos and everything." And they put those photos out on their social media platforms, really just celebrating that aspect of me. And then the same year, a sponsor who makes bicycling clothing, Garneau, my clothing kit sponsor, they made me and Fraser a custom wedding kit. So like it was a full white skin suit that we wore on like the bike ride the morning before a wedding. Yeah. And they also, put that out on their social media platforms. They did an email blast about it. And it was just like kind of this realization like, whoa, okay, this aspect is worth celebrating of myself. And my sponsors are doing it. And it was such a gift because it gave me freedom to really be my full authentic self. And so from that moment on, I wanted to give that gift to the LGBTQ plus community and other cyclists, youth coming up, to really make the statement and reduce that fear that, yes, you can be a professional athlete. Yes, you can make your dreams come true and go to the Olympics, and you can have sponsors and support, and you can be gay. Because there was some fear, for me coming up through the ranks around those aspects. So yeah, that's really when I leaned into advocacy work around that.
Well, Leah, you have been, I know, an inspiration and a motivation to so many people, and that is what defines a leader. So as your past 24 to 48 hours have been a whirlwind with your announcing your retirement, what are your thoughts that you'd like to share now, or maybe you're not ready, professionally and personally over the next phase of your life?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I'm still, wrapping my head around this whirlwind that has happened. I'm so moved by the outpouring of love that I've received. So that's been really special, and it's been really great to take in and kind of celebrate the last 20 years. And moving forward, I look forward to telling my story and sharing my experience more. I want to develop and am building a public speaking career. So I'm very excited and motivated and inspired by that. So yeah, I'm excited to kind of lean more into that. And then this upcoming season in 2022, I will still be racing. So just domestically. So I'm doing a series called the Lifetime Grand Prix, which is a collection of gravel races and mountain bike races over the next summer. So that should be very exciting to kind of just settle in and for the long haul. These races are longer. They're true endurance tests. So that should be really fun.
Well, that is so fantastic. Thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's been great to be here.
We're going to have you back, and like I say, in the future here, and as your career takes off in motivating and inspiring others. I'd like to also thank Mike Cutler from CAT TV, Ray Smith from Southwestern Vermont Health Care, Ashley Jowett from Southwestern Vermont Health Care. I'm Trey Dobson. Go out and find joy in everything you do, even in the face of adversity, just as Leah said earlier, and we will see you next week.